When I was going through your entire course, the word that kept coming up for me was, this is not a course. This is a bona fide system.
What's the motivating factor for you wanting to make this change?
You know, this is a good question. And maybe this is something that I should be speaking to my customers a little more frequently, Craig.
What is it that's so amazing about script writing that is your core product? It is your system, the reason you're showing up and motivating and helping people.
Script writing is annoying and it's hard and people don't like doing it. Even I don't always like doing it. So I'm worried about pricing out the people who make the community feel the most alive.
I bought your course. I bought 2 of them. I've already said this. They blew me away. What percentage would you say in terms of overall revenue is split between the community and the course?
Oh man, this is so difficult.
I would challenge you to...
Oh boy.
That's what I came here for.
So George, why don't you start us off by telling us about who you are, what you do, who you serve, and kind of the role that you play?
Sure. So my name is George Blackman. I am working title a consulting YouTube scriptwriter / story editor. I'm kind of letting that creep in a bit more these days. And so I, for the last 3 or 4 years, have progressed from being a kind of writer for hire who would write YouTube scripts for YouTubers who needed it, to this position now where I've become a kind of personal brand authority in that space. And now I advise larger creators, some brands even, on how to improve their YouTube script writing, how to improve their storytelling, for whatever purpose that might be, whether it's for businesses looking to convert more customers or just straight up YouTubers who want to make videos that entertain people and they want people to watch for as long as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. So why don't you give us like a broad view of your business and what it looks like for people to interface with you?
Sure. So these days, I don't at all write scripts for people at all anymore. It's very much progressed along maybe a kind of traditional type of pathway that you would expect, where I have a newsletter where I send out free advice every single week, which originally I grew through Twitter. And increasingly now that's shifting over to YouTube, like my own YouTube channel, funneling people into that newsletter. From there, people are either funneled to like a number of different places, but the broad kind of offers that I have these days are working one-to-one with me in a kind of, consulting call capacity or with some kind of script editing. But that's a very small number of clients, sort of 3-4 people at a time. The broader scope of how my business makes its money is through course and community sales. So as you guys know, I have my sort of flagship course, which is called the YouTube Script Writing Playbook, which is where I basically distilled everything I learned working for these different clients over the last 3-4 years into what I was aiming to be a comprehensive system that takes you from no idea at all to a retention optimized script on the page. That's the broadest selling thing that I have. But then the kind of bigger version of that is joining my community, where not only can you learn my system through the course, but then you can share the scripts you're working on with me and with a community of others who will then give you feedback on those scripts. That is the major chunk of it. More recently started getting into some AI stuff. I've released a kind of lower medium ticket AI based product, but for the most part, it's the course and the community that are the backbone of the business.
And as someone who's bought the course and bought the AI, I will say, for anyone listening, buy it if you are curious of script writing, storytelling on YouTube. It blew me away, and I don't say that lightly.
Dude,
I'd like
thank you
to,
so much.
Of course, I'd like to dig in a little bit on the structure, because I think this is going to work really well with your question for this episode, but I'm going to reveal that in a little bit. Take us through kind of your cadence, your structure of how you sell that course. So we know you have an audience both on YouTube, Twitter, probably some other places. You have an email list, a weekly newsletter. I would assume you primarily use that as your sales engine, your marketing engine. But I'd also love to know, are you doing like open and close? Are you evergreen? Kind of take us through how you're selling the course.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, in broad strokes, the audience originally, at least until the last year, functioned in terms of I would tweet loads. I try and funnel people onto the newsletter. I might occasionally mention my course on Twitter, but broadly speaking, that will be saved for when they join the newsletter. Those really were the only 2 places that I had any kind of presence. And I think I, originally launched this course in January 2024, last year, to an email list of like 2,000 people. And so that was it. Like that was the main place that I talked about it. These days, like I say, now I've started doing my own YouTube stuff because it seemed like I probably should. And I'm kind of moving away from Twitter because it's sort of, I'm imagining like the scene where they fly away from Jurassic Park and there's just sort of destruction and chaos behind them. That's kind of how I feel or have felt in the last 6 months. And like I say, I'm trying to replace that with YouTube, where again, I'm not really selling it directly. I'm maybe doing some casual references to the course over there. But again, the main point at which people get pitched on it is in the newsletter. But in terms of how I'm selling it and any kind of big pushes I've done, primarily it is evergreen. The course and the community, both evergreen. I did do a second version kind of relaunch about 6 months after I originally made the course. So that was in summer 2024, which again led to a nice sort of bump. But beyond that, then it's been like Black Friday, sales here and there and little things like that. But really, it is effectively an evergreen product, and there's no sort of cohort-based nature to it, and there's no cap on, say, the number of students that can join the community. It is very much just like when you want to jump in, you can jump in.
And if you don't want to, or you don't have access to at the top of your head, hard numbers, what percentage would you say in terms of overall revenue is split between the community and the course?
So in terms of raw sales, I'd say it's like 85% pure course, and then maybe 15-20% community. But because of the inflection and the price point, I was looking at this just a moment before, and in the last year at least, the community subscriptions have accounted for more than 50% of overall revenue.
Wow. Okay. I think, Craig, I'd love to dive in. I think this is a good time to reveal the question.
I think we need to pull it out.
Yeah, and I'll read it. Yeah, yours was very lengthy, so I'm just going to pull out like the nuggets of it that'll help us kind of illustrate this. But your question was, what do you guys think about completely switching how I frame my key offer to be around the community and not so much the course? i.e., you see some other communities out there where you say it's the community, and part of that, you get my course, my systems, my tools included. And all of the vibes seem to be that courses are dead and communities are the future. But a big sticking point you have is, how do I take that, right? If that's going to be my overall direction and strategy, how do I take that without upending everything in my business, my marketing assets, everything like that is central messaging towards course. How do I make that shift? And I think, we already have a signal that it's like, okay, if community is accounting for close to 50% of revenue, this is a clear signal in the direction we'd love to move forward. My insight, because I work with community, that's kind of my core offer, would be just changing one simple word first.
Interesting.
I'd love to hear what Craig says before I reveal that word, to see if he has any insight here too.
I'm trying to guess your word.
Or what would you kind of reveal as a kind of a shift in taking him down, going more towards community?
Well, okay. So I want to hear what you have to say, because I have a question to follow up his question to see if we're going in the right spot.
Okay.
So take us where you're going.
I love it. So, and this is speaking from someone who has admired your work and also someone who has seen behind the curtain of your work. I am an actual customer of your product, 2 of them really that I talked about in the beginning. And when I was going through your entire course, the word that kept coming up for me was, this is not a course, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. This is a bona fide system that is going to help me transform from someone who is a dullard and has no idea how to write a script in any realm, right? Let alone my personal brand. And if I just follow from point A or point 0 to point 100, I'm going to transform using that system. Mm-hmm. And so when I was thinking about your question a lot, what kept coming up in my head was to not fall into the trap of we need to overhaul everything. I have these drip campaigns, I have these funnels, I have certain messaging. Now I'm changing it. I don't know if I want to confuse the X thousand people on my list. I thought calling your course more just a system could help us ease into having the core offer be a community. And so really pushing the community, and I I want to get further into it and thinking about like pricing and anchoring and things like that with the course versus the community. But that was the first thing I kind of wanted to highlight, is to start referring to that as a system, because then once you place it in the community, let's say you were to sell 100 people over the next year into the community, it's not almost saying like, oh, and here's an a la carte extra course. With the community, you get the system already, right? That's part of the community. That's where my head was going. I'd love to hear your initial thoughts on that, and I'd love to dive in, go further down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. So I love the idea of a system. I'm 100% aligned with. And I think in the kind of subheadings variously across the marketing, like I'm always on about the idea of it being a systemized approach to blah, blah, blah. In fact, I think my original heading, which was like not very good at all, was something like master the craft of systemized YouTube script writing or something, which is not, that's like selling the plane ticket, not the destination. But very much on board with the idea of a system. But I think what's just changed in my brain with you saying that is I think you're right. I am totally treating it as, hey, join the community, and as like an add-on, you get this course thing for free, effectively. Whereas actually it should very much be this system is completely at the heart of the community, and the community is your chance to put that system into action and get feedback as you're going through that system or something like that. So I'm not a no. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's a wonderful reframing and insight into the whole problem that you're trying to solve. And I want to make sure we come back to that. But before we continue on, the one question that I did want to ask was, what's the motivating factor for you wanting to make this change? Is it revenue? Is it effort? What's driving this question?
Yeah, so revenue probably second. And like I say, it was a surprise to me to see that the community revenue was more than half. I've had a burst in the last couple of weeks because I just came back from Vid Summit where I was speaking. And so like that has certainly helped. But even without that, it would have been about half and half. So in any case, revenue is one reason. If I can just sell more of the more expensive thing, then it makes my life a little bit easier and I can put more effort into that thing. But the primary reason is just a level of confusion that I'm worried I am currently putting onto people who land on my site. Like I'm someone who really values neatness and systems, clearly. And what I feel right now is that, and I only realized this when I was launching the AI stuff, because everything I have is housed on Circle. And originally, when I put everything on Circle, it was like, this thing is called the YouTube script writing playbook. You've got the essential tier, which is just the course, or the pro tier, which includes the community. And that kind of fit, like you get access to either just the course bit down the left-hand side, or you get the community forum as well if you paid for it. But where that got confused was when I released the AI script writing toolbox, which is my little sort of batch of AI custom GPTs. It didn't make sense for those to be housed under an overarching name that was the YouTube script writing playbook, because people weren't getting that with the AI toolbox. They were just getting the AI stuff. And so in a panic, I only literally thought of this on launch day. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. So I renamed the entire Circle group the YouTube Writers Room, because I thought that was a better overarching title that could encapsulate either just the AI tools or the course or the community. But now where it feels confused is that when I'm referring to the community in like emails and things, I don't know whether to call it, YTSP Pro, which is what it originally was, or the YouTube Writers Room, which is what you'll see when you land on it. And so overall, it just feels like, man, if the thing people knew me for was, he runs the YouTube Writers Room, within which you can either, the primary function of which is it's a community, but within that, you can also get access to his AI tools and his script writing system / course. So that's the initial spur, is just confused marketing, basically.
Okay. And so is this something, and I'm not saying it's not there, but is it something that you had people contacting you saying this was an issue, or is it something that you're thinking 2 steps ahead and realizing like, I know everything that's going out and I know how this could be an issue?
It's me interpreting a couple of signals, which could be not totally related, but it's like I will more regularly, since especially releasing the AI stuff, I'll get asked, does the essential tier include the AI tools? Or if I join the community, do I have to get the AI tools? Or someone will buy the AI thing, then they'll buy the community, and then they'll come to me saying, oh, shoot, can I have a refund for the AI thing? I didn't know it was included. That's probably only happened 5, 6 times, but I've noticed that happening since the release of the AI tools. So it could be related to that, or it could be the overall thing, but it feels like there's something off.
Okay. Do you feel like I kind of feel like I know the answer to this question, but that's okay. When people are using the community, if they're using the course, if they're using the AI tools, where is the biggest transformation available for people?
This is a good question. And maybe this is something that I should be speaking to my customers a little more frequently, Craig. But I don't fully know, because I have, John, you were very complimentary of just the course, and I feel like I hear that quite a lot. And I think nobody breaks down script writing in quite the way that I've tried to, and in terms of systemizing it. And so I get a lot of compliments about that, and people saying, oh, these ideas that I heard I'd never heard before, that feels like I've completely changed how I think about script writing. So on one hand, I'd think the course does a pretty good job, but then in the community, from just the interactions that we have there and how much more quickly people are able to improve what they're doing, and I can see that transformation happening, there's more kind of proof, and I can literally see that transformation rather than being told about it in an email from someone who took the course, but I haven't seen any of their videos. So I don't know is probably the honest answer. It could be either.
Enjoying the conversation? Good. Me too. Well, I have amazing news for you. The fun doesn't need to stop here in the episode. You can get regular insights from both Craig and I on building, growing, and overcoming your growth questions. Go to tgq.tool/signup to get the type of coaching found here on the growth question. We'll put a link in the description down below for you. Just tell us where you want the coaching sent, and you'll get it delivered directly to your inbox. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the course is that's the foundation of everything you teach, right? That's the table stakes of the language. It's the terminology. It's your system that people are implementing in order to get what they want. And then the community is a place where they come to put it into practice. This is where reality sets in, and they have the opportunity, before giving this script or this video to the entire world, to be able to hear from others, perhaps from yourself, of whether or not this should be done in XYZ way, or if you need to approach it a different way. And so I think they're related but distinct. But I would suppose that the community is really where they find the largest amount of transformation, because you're converting information into action and implementation.
True. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. And I think maybe what's very easy, I think, when you, especially certainly from the courses that I've taken in the past, is that when you learn an idea that's new, like when I remember taking Justin Welsh's course about how to sort of convert a newsletter into a bunch of high-performing tweets or vice versa, and I remember leaving that thinking, holy moly, what a great idea. And then I kind of did it for a week, and then I stopped doing it, and then I found my own system, and I fell into my old patterns, and I found a way to make it work for me. But certainly at the moment of finishing it, I was bursting with love for Justin Welsh, because I was like, wow, this is just a new way of thinking, and I feel excited. And so there's probably a degree to which people who've just taken the course are maybe full of that kind of temporary feeling of elation at having learned something new. But then were I to speak to them in 6 months, how much action would they have taken? I guess I don't know. Whereas you can track that in the community and you can see it. So I think that's, probably a reasonable assumption.
Well, and take us through a little bit of the structure of the community and the overarching benefits, because I think that's really important. It's something I try to instill in my own. How do people get, if they can, how do people get access to you? How do people get access to each other? What kind of weekly, monthly cadence events are built into there, so we can get just kind of a sense of how it's structured?
Sure. So I think I probably do some to most of the basics fairly well, but there is so much that I'm not doing, I think would be the way I would summarize it. So broadly speaking, the main function of the community is that you can share scripts in progress. Usually that ends up being hooks or overall structure that someone is planning to implement in their script. Anything more than that, like a full script, people rarely post, because they'll just get less feedback on it, because it's a tall order for other students to read an entire script. So that's the main function of it. But then in terms of weekly cadence, every week we have one office hours where people just turn up and it's basically a Q&A with me. And then we have one group script writing session, which is 2 hours long as opposed to the 1 hour long office hours. And this is more of an accountability thing. And it's kind of one that I've tried to implement more just for myself because it forces me to write. But that means other people can turn up and we hopefully all write some amount of or all of a YouTube script. So those are the main things, but then there are some kind of bonus things. So within that, people can book a one-to-one hot seat with me, which is basically like anyone, anytime, as many times as they want, basically, can just do a free one-to-one with me. But we invite everyone else in the community along, and it's kind of like a roast type format where we just get some group feedback on something that maybe takes a bit more digging into. I also, at the end of every month, whoever has the most points from interacting and getting likes on their posts and their comments and things, the top 3 of a given month will get a free retention graph review from me, which was kind of how I got started in my newsletter many, many years ago, was doing that. Those are the main features. There are guest sessions that I've done in the past, although I'm prioritizing those a little bit less at the moment, mainly because I've burnt through my little black book of people and everyone else costs like $4,000 an hour. But in theory, we might do more guest sessions depending on what happens. But that's the main amount of it right now. There's like a lot of little extra things that I've seen in other people's communities, like pairing people up with people in a similar niche or even from the same country or whatever, like little subgroups. I don't do anything beyond, I think, let's say the basics. And I think there's probably some missed opportunities in there as well. But that sums it up, I think.
I know this isn't part of your question, but just out of my own curiosity, because this is always kind of where my mind goes. The hot seat, is it generally oversubscribed every week? Like more than one person would want to get in? Or what's kind of the rate of show up for that feature?
Yeah, a good question. This probably isn't very helpful, but basically I hadn't mentioned it in about 5 months, and so no one had booked one in 5 months. And then I mentioned it yesterday, and 4 people have booked immediately, which is kind of manageable. It's like totally manageable. But I think I was worried about that when I got into it, but it seems like people kind of forget about it and don't want to abuse the system from what I can tell. So it's not overwhelming, I would say, on the most part.
The reason I asked that question, and again, I know this isn't part of your original growth question, but I do think, and Craig helped me with this, I'm sure he helped you with this once upon a time with your course, thinking about just lifetime customer value. To me, I think of like hot seat, and I'm going to get George's full-on attention. Sure, It's going to hurt maybe, and we're going to get ripped apart, but like this is a 60-minute coaching session. I feel like there's definitely a revenue opportunity there. I know you didn't necessarily ask about it though.
No, well, I appreciate it. And sorry, Craig, go on.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just gonna say, I think that makes a really good point. You say that you're doing the bare minimum on your community, and I say no. You're not doing the bare minimum. There's more you could be doing. Sure, there's some missed opportunities. There's maybe ways you can monetize it differently. But from what it sounds like you're doing, you are engaging with people and interacting with people in a very dynamic way. The bare minimum would be you open up a community and once a week you go in and answer a post. Like to me,
fair.
That's bottom feeding. You're way and far and above that. And I think that if you were to think deeply about making a fundamental shift like what we're discussing, to John's point, it would be like, okay, well, what are some of the different aspects and different facets of this community and the interaction and the access that they have to you that comes at different levels of availability, which are associated with different levels of pricing?
Yeah. And this is really valuable, by the way. I'm very happy to sort of skew slightly because I think it all probably ties back into how do you make this the main, or should you make this the main offer? I agree. And I've been thinking for a while, like I charge $1,000 for an hour call, and people can buy a year's access for the same price to the community where they can effectively get infinite one-to-one calls. So it's all broken. I've been thinking for a while that I do need to increase the price. But I think that, again, ties into this fear of like, well, apart from the last week where I've had a real burst of students because of going to VidSummit, the numbers, it might be like one student a month sometimes, like, no more than that. And so it feels risky in some ways to increase the price when I feel like I'm not seeing the signal of like, for every 3 people that, 3 people say yes in a row, it means your prices are too low, raise it. So that's where the fear comes in. But at the same time, I look at what I offer and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense that should cost the same as a one-to-one call. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think there's an interesting kind of opportunity here where we've established in the beginning of the call, right, that, or the show, that you're kind of always available with Evergreen. And if I'm off a little bit, but you said like the overall raw purchases are 85-15 course to community, but revenue is about 50-50. I think with a slight shift in not necessarily like increasing the price because the value's there, but I think restricting the supply because the value is there is a huge opportunity that you're sitting on.
Interesting.
Meaning, like, I bought your course. I bought 2 of them. I've already said this. They blew me away, right? And all I knew was Craig knew you. I had done some research on you. I went straight to your website. I read 1 sales page and I was in, right?
Okay.
I haven't even gone into the community to know what your AI and course had. Blew me away. I was like, I've done plenty of courses before. This was pretty awesome. One thing in particular, I know that I do, a bunch of my peers, competitors do, and one thing that I think everyone listening to the show, and I know all 3 of us in here know, and now it can be dialed up more for you, it's dialed up more for me, but is like Jay Klaus and his community restricts entry. And that I think he's at a $2,000 price point right now. I haven't looked at it in a while.
Depends on the tier.
Okay. That automatically, I think, he's oversubscribed. It makes you want it more.
Yeah.
Listening to you and seeing what's already inside the community is like, yeah, the value's clearly there, but what incentivizes someone to join when, I can join today, but I can also join a year from now?
Yeah.
When am I really going to be in that? I've written 15 scripts. I haven't changed my retention, nothing there. I've barely grown my viewership. Like, the person has to be on the verge of going back to a 9-to-5 and throwing their YouTube away in order to get them in and get that help and value that they need, rather than this is only available X amount of times a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my head goes a lot. And I think it's a huge opportunity that you're sitting on.
And I think there's a mindset issue here that is worth kind of unraveling here for a moment.
Okay. Let's do it.
If you're working with someone, I almost want to say irrespective of their experience level. Okay. But if they're working on, not a peer, but if someone who could really use your services, if they're working on a script and you were to come in and you were to give direct one-on-one feedback where you understand the content, you understand the niche, you understand what they're trying to accomplish, and you go in and fine-tune what they're doing, what does that mean for the person you're working with?
A great deal of time saved going forwards, a great deal of time saved researching, figuring the stuff out, learning the frameworks that they would have to otherwise figure out, probably more in the right circumstances, potentially more revenue going forwards if that's the particular problem they're trying to fix, how to do a call to action that's actually effective or something like that in a script. So I see your point.
Okay, right. And so in that moment, it's time saved, it's revenue missed, or revenue potential that you could gain. This amazing and strange and wonderful thing about YouTube is its shelf life. So if you put out a bad video, it's going to be there unless you delete it for I don't know how long, a long, long, long time. If you put out an exceptional video, this workhorse is going to work for you today, tomorrow, next month, next year. And so if people come to you and you're giving the opportunity to be able to get it done right from the very beginning, that's an exponentiator that goes way beyond just the time that you're saving them and the revenue opportunities that they're getting within the first month of launch. And so what I'm trying to frame for you here is that access to you and your direct feedback is way undervalued at your current offer level.
Yeah, I think.
To John's point, you should qualify harder and charge more to be able to be that close to you. Would you like to be a guest on The Growth Question? Go to tgq.tools/apply to tell us about you, your business, and your growth question.
Can I mention something? Because I agree with all of that. And yes, I agree, Craig. I think the mindset thing is totally true. And I agree, John. I think the restricting access thing is something I remember thinking about as early as like middle of last year. And the reason I think if I were to like journal it out, the ultimate reason I think I haven't taken any action on that is what I've noticed is the community, broadly speaking, attracts, I'd say like the average person who's in there is somewhere between like 1,000 subscribers and maybe 10,000. Or maybe 50,000. Like we sort of, varies a little bit. And we'll have some at the sort of the higher end. We've had some people join recently who are like 300,000 in the past. 100,000 plus is not unheard of, but it's more rare. But what I've found is that the people who are generally the most generous with their feedback are the people who are on the lower end of the subscriber count. And what I worry about is pricing out, and so not that their subscriber count is necessarily correlated with their spending power, but I think largely when it comes to YouTube, it probably is if their income is largely based on YouTube. So I'm worried about pricing out the people who make the community feel the most alive. And I think the community is still perfectly valuable as it is, as just access to me, because I will reply to everything. But that's my concern. And I'm curious to know what you guys would say about that, whether that is like a mindset thing, whether it's a marketing problem that the wrong people are being like tempted in, or what, because I love the people who are the most active and I'd be worried about pricing them out.
I think,
go ahead,
John.
Craig, please.
So I think that's a very astute observation on your part. And I think that oftentimes people who are in the smaller and growing stages of their business not only have the time, but they have the motivation to give more because they're in that space. When you start working in the higher trajectory, it's like, okay, well, we're thinking about a million other things beyond just the script, right? What I'm not saying is think about increasing the price of your community exponentially. What I am saying is that when it comes time to spend time directly with you one-on-one and get that type of feedback, like maybe a hot seat with George is one price point, but a community hot seat is something different entirely.
Interesting.
And so it's not like we have to turn a light switch on or off. There's a lot of different options that you have available to you, and it's just about finding what makes sense in context.
Yes. That seems so simple. I don't know what. Yes, like that's a great point.
Just to double click on it, it's actually very similar to what I was going to say, just in kind of different language. I've said this previously in a different episode, this illustration. I've used it in my Twitter content everywhere because I feel like it just articulates it so well. And I want to blend that with what I deem to be one of the greatest marketing inventions ever. So the greatest marketing invention for me, and I think for everyone here, we already know this, whether it's like actually or intuitively. And I think listeners can get some good benefit from it. But when I was a kid, I remember my dad always telling me that, like, when I was your age, we didn't have a medium fry. And I was like, how is that possible? How could you not like it? Small, medium, large. It makes complete sense. And when the medium fry is essentially the decoy effect. I take it you two are both familiar with the decoy effect in marketing.
No, but I'm filling in the blanks. I think I've heard it maybe under a different name.
And so when you have a binary, right, a small and a large, more people are going to buy the small because the commitment to the large is just a little too much for them. And so when you add the medium, when you add the decoy, you're going to increase average order value. And the decoy becomes the large. Your goal isn't to sell the large. Your goal is to sell the medium because it's more than the small. And I think what you can do, an opportunity, is really changing the access to you in the community or access to certain areas of the community. Because I think as a business owner, a goal is you have predictable revenue in a community model. Right? So you can, if you have X amount of churn, you can still predict Y amount of revenue. But you allow people access into this community that's maybe all just forum based, right? For those lower, let's say 0 to 1,500 or 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, They have access to the async forum version where they can get async feedback from you, but they're not invited to the hot seats, the office hours, those things. That's the bigger price point. So then you're always allowing people in to get this feedback, to get this value, but it's at whatever stage they're ready for. And again, I still think being in control of the supply of how many people are in and when and those kinds of things. But it's the same offer. It's the same community. It's just different tiers to be let in. And I wouldn't do too many tiers or that's going to confuse everything, but maybe it's just one extra. It's a medium fry.
Yeah, I mean,
Love medium
absolutely.
fry.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. If I could just come back with one other fear around that and just to get your thoughts on it, and you know, just to know if you've seen any patterns here. But things like this have crossed my mind as well at various points in the past. The fear I have around doing something like that not prices out even, but you know, we have like a restricted number of people who can join, say, the office hours calls or whatever else. I can't always predict how many people are going to be on the calls anyway. Sometimes we can get 10 people. Other times it's one. And it doesn't bother me either way. And it seems to really vary as to who that might be. So we'll get someone who pops up and then I won't see them for 2 months. And then they'll come to 3 in a row a few months after. Maybe this is very, very standard. I don't know. But it feels like, am I just being a bit of a pick-me and thinking, because it's script writing and script writing is annoying and it's hard and people don't like doing it. Even I don't always like doing it. People will go through these real bursts of enthusiasm for doing it, realize how difficult it is, and then stop. And then I don't see them for a while. And then they sort of recover themselves and they come back with renewed energy and blah, blah, blah. All this to say, what if I make these 3-tier things? I have my, say, top tier thing. And actually, side point, I had a VIP tier when I first launched this, and I allowed 5 people in. And from the off, some people paid $5,000 for this thing and never showed up to a call, never did anything, never even redeemed any of the deliverables that they'd paid for. Just $5,000 like that and nothing, never saw them again, which just blew my mind. And I think maybe that's what I'm worried about is creating these upper tiers where we restrict access to only certain people. Does that mean the pool of people who might show up then becomes even smaller, and therefore the perceived value of then being in that tier is then reduced because it's no one ever shows up to those things. It's just George sat there on his lonesome. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if your interpretation of the perceived value being diminished is the reality of it. We'd have to ask those people who bought and never, because value is, like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. To just know that they had that opportunity could have been what they were looking for. If I need a fallback, if I need a safety net, it's there. And they never needed the safety net. I don't know. But it's a very valid question.
And the behavior that you're seeing where people drop off and then intensify and do that, that's 100% normal.
Okay, cool.
Most communities are going to have that. And the reason is various. It could be family issues. It could be other commitments. It could be they're batching their production schedule. Who knows? Right. So the issue, like you're saying, becomes well, what if there's not enough givers in the room in order to make it valuable for what they're doing? And you said something incredibly interesting here just a moment ago, which I think is an opportunity for you to pay attention to. Yes, whatever our job is, doesn't matter what it is, there are aspects of it that we don't like. But if you don't have a love for script writing, that'll come across to people. So it would be interesting for you to do, and I know this is going to sound like the corniest thing in the entire world. I know. But for your journaling time, I would challenge you to sit down and write a love letter to script writing. Why is it the most amazing thing? How does it affect your life? How does it affect the lives of the viewers who watch these? What is it that's so amazing about script writing that is your core product? It is your system. It's the reason you're showing up and motivating and helping people. And I'm not saying that just by aligning this thing is going to change how many people show up or what they do, but it will if you show up with enthusiasm and you show up with wonder and what are the possibilities of what we're going to create today, you can help create that into the DNA of your community which then begins to feed back into the energy that shows up from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I've even said like, to students before, usually students that I've known for like a year or more. But so we do sometimes just like descend into a bit of a therapy session, like, oh man, this is so difficult. I was working on this script
Well,
for
it is
hours.
hard.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Although easier with my more recent system that I did a webinar on more recently, which has got me writing a script a week in just 90 minutes. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it kind of is a bit self-defeating if that is at least, yes, the energy that's going out into the rest of the community. So I'm going to do that. I'm getting a train in a couple of hours, so I might start doing it while I'm sat there. Yeah.
But the reality of it is some of this requires some experimentation. And so if you decide to split things up in a similar way or even a little different than what we're discussing, you'll have to give it a chance to work. And what I mean by that is actually making the decision and then giving it a chance to work through for a couple months or give it legs before you decide to change direction. But coming back to I just do the minimum, I don't think you do the minimum. I think there are different other things that you can continue to do. And so it just comes down to being intentional about, okay, well, if people are interfacing with me in these different swim lanes, how do I make that compelling? How do I make it something that is really valuable for them? And then also preserving essentially your brand as being able to get that laser focus directly on one-on-one, that would come at a higher premium.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I think, yeah, I'm with you on that. I guess, could I ask a question that may take it in a slightly different direction, but just in terms of like raw actions that need to happen here, the sort of visual that I had that confused me, left me uncertain with all of this is that I have my course landing page, which talks about the system and like everything else. And then halfway down, there's this thing that's like, and hey, if you like, you can also sign up to my community. What I imagined if I made the switch that we're kind of talking about here is that effectively they would swap over and the top of the thing would be like, here is this script writing community thing that helps you implement this incredibly important and easy to learn script writing system that's going to result in benefits X, Y, Z. And as a part of that, you'll get access to and then, list them out. Does that sound like the direction this should go? Or like, should there still be an entirely separate landing page for people who just want to buy the course? Because this is my fear, is the landing page has, a sort of 2-year track record of converting people. And that's the fear, is like, if I make that switch, does my whole thing become, I am the guy with the script writing community, and as part of that, you get my course? Or should the course still be its own thing somewhere? That's where I blow up and then just do the same thing as I've always done.
I think there's kind of like a short-term experiment that will give you a more longer-term answer. This how I would approach it, because I like controlling the most variables possible and then, making a big overhaul like you're kind of describing later on down the road. What I would personally do is I would lock down access to the community almost immediately. I would say, like, this is only available when I say it is, on the same sales page that has been proven to convert, I guess 85% more with your course than the community. And I would run a campaign later on down the road for the community as a whole, using still the same landing page. Have it divert to a wait list, actually drive up and experiment, research interest, and then release it. Almost, you could add some more value to it. You can do kind of some promotional stuff, but that's the variable I would control first, just to see that if I change the variable of controlling the supply and demand, how much more conversion, how much more interest do I actually have in this segment of my offering? From there, I would start to make changes of, okay, do I want the positioning to be more of the community? And you can get the course if you don't want it. But making so many changes at one point, I feel like it's just throwing too many cooks into the kitchen to know exactly which direction is the most advantageous for me to head.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. That's a great point. That solves the exact fear that I had, the too many cooks thing, or not knowing. Wait, I changed 800 variables. Which is the one that means people either are or aren't buying the course? That's a great idea. I love that. that was really the point that I wanted to get to, was just to know like what relatively low lift and low risk, even low lift, low risk next step could there be? And I think that's it. Along with all the other stuff we've talked about, I think that feels like there's more of a roadmap beyond that point, were it to go well, of like, okay, cool, now we can start thinking about the tier system thing and like how we restrict that access going forwards and things like that. So it's what I came here for. Thanks, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
I'm a happy customer.
I love it. Change as few things as possible in the beginning and then make your decisions from there.
I think, yeah, that sounds great. Really appreciate it.
All right. So if people want to learn how to actually write good YouTube scripts, where are we going to send them?
I would go straight to georgeblackman.com. It's where you can find my newsletter, which is free every single Friday. Send out more script writing advice from what I'm learning from my own channel, from clients' channels, from my students' channels. And from there, maybe you can take a giant leap like John did and jump onto the course.
I'm a paid customer too.
Highly
Don't forget.
Of course, Craig.
Yes.
How could I forget? Thank you so much. So georgeblackman.com is the place.